we have made it to the song Odysseus, and I'm assuming we are finally at the true slaughter of the suitors. The part where we actually, slaughter the suitors. Because we left off Hold Them Down with Antinous getting shot in the throat, presumably, of course, by Odysseus. Now, we didn't actually get to see the challenge itself play out. So we didn't get to see Odysseus string the bow and make that trick shot, again, while all the suitors think he's just some random old beggar dude. And we're just sitting there with like vicious delight going, ha, little do you know what is in store. And of course, then the best part is Zeus sends down like dramatic thunder and lightning, and it's just like, we're building. So I'm convinced if Jorge's gonna do it this way and I'm not gonna actually get to see the challenge itself, which does make me sad, but we're just going straight into the slaughter of the suitors, it would be so cool if, like, while Antinous is hyping all of these suitors up and they're doing their thing, that Odysseus is like in the back kind of unnoticed, and he's like, we as the audience get to watch him without them realizing string the bow and then line up the shot and shoot Antinous in the throat, but like through the 12 axes. Would that not be the coolest fucking thing? It's so satisfying. Plus, again, we get to see the cool trick shot because we love to build up this moment because we've built up essentially the impossibility of the shot. Then to watch Odysseus, the true Greek hero, come in and just do it, essentially like it's easy, is just... That's why this is his moment of what we call aristeia, aka excellence. He goes full one-man army, like in a fury, and starts killing everyone. Also basically buck naked. I'm not even kidding. Once again, Odysseus is a fan of not wearing very many clothes when he does some wild shit. And his fury is something that you can compare even to Achilles or Achilles in the Iliad. Like, Odysseus's frenzy is such that there are points where Telemachus has to like step in and go, whoa, dad, hey, maybe like don't kill that guy. That guy's cool. He wasn't with the suitors. No, you don't have to kill him. He's great. But those guys over there you can go for. And again, the slaughter of the suitors takes place then kind of throughout the palace. Another big point that happens in the Odyssey is that Telemachus accidentally leaves the door to the armory like slightly ajar, like just barely. It's described as apparently not being that much, but it's just enough that the suitors are then able to get weapons, which also then makes Odysseus just continuing to kill them all the more impressive because then they're getting armed and it's not just him with a bunch of unarmed dudes. It's so good. It's so good. So I've been waiting for this moment. How often have I said I'm ready for the slaughter of the suitors? I've been driving towards the slaughter of the suitors. We are at what must be the slaughter of the suitors, Jorge. I don't expect Jorge to disappoint me. Like, this is a moment where I want Jorge to go full self-indulgence, like hype the action, go nuts. This is where it should be. And I'm ready for what Jorge's gonna deliver me. I've also been told, by Mary, of course, that I should have her libretto up because there are certain suitors who get named that might be worth talking about. So again, I have the libretto here. So any named suitor, if they are of note and worth talking about, I'll take a moment to talk about them. Obviously, we've been predominantly highlighting Antinous in this musical, very understandably. He's basically their leader and kind of their main mouthpiece, if you will. So I'm curious as to see who the other suitors they decide to name are. I can think of a couple off the top of my head, so we'll see if they get named.
For 20 years I've suffered every punishment and pain, from the wrath of gods and monsters to the screams of comrades slain. I come back and find my palace desecrated, sacked like Troy. Worst of all, I hear you dare to touch my wife and hurt my boy.
Sorry, I know, I'm pausing early. True. I find my palace desecrated, sacked like Troy. The comparison between what happens in the sack of Troy and again, this whole thing with the slaughter of the suitors, very deliberate. It was a parallel that Homer very much was trying to make. Although, of course, we have also then cut out the fact that the suitors behave terribly to Odysseus when he's in disguise. So then it's like even a bonus point. It's like, oh, you fucking... Oh, hell no. But I can sort of see why we compressed a lot of that. While I'm sad we lose a lot of this extra sneaking around, this way of Odysseus to infiltrate places, because obviously that's a core part of his character. And it's, again, part of that paralleling between the Trojan horse and what's happening here. I still love the mention of finding my home sacked like Troy, because Yes, that's so deliberate. It's so deliberate in the Odyssey. It's nice to have that mentioned here.
I have had enough.
The choir! ODYSSEUS. Like we had Polyphemus. Oh, that's so clever. Oh, I like that a lot. In a way, also drawing parallels to point out, basically, we could argue Polyphemus was totally justified in what he was doing. He came home and found his shit sacked. Whether Odysseus and his men intended to or not. Intention is sort of a gray area, because if you break the rules, it almost doesn't matter what you intended, you still broke the rules. So now we have Odysseus sort of taking the Polyphemus route, which I really do hope people can then understand that it means Odysseus was wholly unjustified in everything that happened in the Polyphemus cave, and that Polyphemus is ultimately the one who is justified. I hope that's what Jorge is going for here in drawing this massive parallel musically, because I do think that's true, and it's important, especially with how he recontextualized the Polyphemus encounter. I just fail to think that that wasn't super deliberate so he could bring it back here to this. And also, we have never had a character that wasn't in some way either like a monster or a god have a big backing choir. I mean, also Tiresias in the underworld, but he's dead, so we'll give him that. Interesting. Ooh, I love that. And again, if we're drawing these parallels between the Polyphemus encounter and this, Odysseus has become the monster. And again, what's interesting about that is, of course, that in the world of ancient Greece, when they're, listening to the Odyssey being told, it's not monstrous what Odysseus does. It's totally within his right. Because if Xenia is violated, especially to the extent that the suitors did, and if we then go with epic, with the shit they're talking about and hold them down, Odysseus is beyond well within his rights to do whatever the fuck he wants. He doesn't even have to offer them mercy. He can if he wants, but he's well within his rights to do whatever the hell he wants here, because the suitors have violated Xenia so badly. Bad Xenia and fucking treason. Again, which is what they were plotting in Hold Them Down. That he's just like, thank you for that basically get out of jail free card. Now, again, I had noted that I assume we're not doing stuff that's related to book 24 of the Odyssey, which is kind of the fallout of the slaughter of the suitors. And it's more just Odysseus making sure that, all his ducks are in a row so that we don't end up with, long-lasting blood feuds or some sort of divine retribution that might come down, even though there's no way. Again, when the slaughter's about to start, Zeus sends down a streak of lightning, a thunderbolt, to basically let everybody know Odysseus is fucking home. He's here to fuck shit up, and I stand behind that. He is within his right, and Zeus was usually the god you called out to when it pertained to Xenia violations. So again, Odysseus is well within his right, fully backed by the gods. I almost kind of wish we got a dramatic thunderclap here, again, just for the drama, because it is such a cinematic, dramatic moment in the Odyssey where it's just like, who is that? Thunder crack, it's Odysseus. It's like, oh, come on. Again, Homer knew what he was doing, but ooh, the divine, we love a divine drama choir. Again, Jorge, if you give me an organ in here, I will also lose my mind, but I am happy enough with a drama choir. Let's fucking go. Oh my god, can we? I'm so hyped.
Battle at the edge of the unknown. Somewhere in the shadows lurks an agile, deadly foe.
Oh, interesting. So somewhere in the shadows, that's implying that, I'm going to double check this libretto, but that is implying suitors scatter in the darkness locked inside the palace they brace for battle. Okay. So yeah, most of the slaughter of the suitors in the Odyssey just takes place in this hall, this main grand hall. Some sort of are able to get to their weapons, which it implies that armory is nearby, but it all pretty much takes place in one room. It is because Odysseus says at some point, close the doors and lock them in one space. That's a very deliberate tactic on his part. And it is said to be taking place in the evening, later in the day, because again, Antinous has that line where he says, look, let's just fuck it for the day. Let's go make some sacrifices to Apollo because they can't string the bow, and then we'll come back tomorrow. So we are in the evening, light is getting dim. So this is Odysseus using his environment to his advantage. So instead of just doing a kind of clustering or funneling method where he's keeping them enclosed so they can't really move about, and he as one person is able to move around a lot more, we're doing it so I'm assuming he would have gotten the torches all put out, because there would of course be torches and stuff to light your way. I mean, duh. People are still milling about the palace. There are servants and other staff, essentially. This is almost... It does kind of make me wish we had something that showed Odysseus at least putting his plan in motion, maybe like a little bit. I know it's hard to do when you want to try and keep this kind of explosion of violence really secret, but it does start making me question, like, wait, so where are all the torches? Where exactly are we in the palace? We lose a bit of a sense of space because this isn't like Polyphemus's cave where it's just a cave. Like, you go in and there's an exit, right? That's easy. The palace does still technically have architecture and a floor plan of sorts. So I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but this is stuff you want to think about if you're planning out, okay, how are we doing the slaughter of the suitors? Like, the plan is very laid out in the Odyssey for you, and you get a sense of, here is where we are, here's the space. Now, yes, because it's an epic poem and they're only telling it to you, he has to describe the place in relative detail. But I do think in this case, because we are going to have Odysseus using the space to his advantage and like putting out the lights, if you will, it would have been nice to get a hint of that in the libretto, that like we're watching maybe lights in the background flicker out. Ooh, maybe that's something Jorge could do on stage. Have it so like whatever your backdrop is, like you have it like a palace and you want to start putting the lights out, have it so that Odysseus, like again, during Hold Them Down, like we get to see Odysseus doing all these things. He's putting out lights kind of furtively in the background, and then he's stringing the bow and shooting Antinous. So totally a way to do that. As much as it sounds like I'm critiquing and say, how dare you do this? It's just like, these are mechanics you kind of have to think about, and there's totally a way to do it. Sometimes it just takes me a second and I have to talk myself through it, right? But anyway, ooh, okay, interesting. Interesting.
We have the advantage, we've the numbers and the might.
No, you don't understand it. This man plans for every fight.
Oh, that's so satisfying hearing the arrow shots, because he does predominantly use bows and arrows to hunt down these men, because he is basically, in his mind, hunting down people who are less than human, because they have, you know, violated these cultural laws and norms so gravely. And of course, in Epic, we made them even worse. Oh my god. Oh, I love that. But also it is kind of funny where it's like, oh, we have the advantage, we have the numbers. And like, what's really interesting is that in the Odyssey, when we meet the suitors in book 1, we hear tell that they have this, you know, bard who is there essentially to sing songs and stories. And the song and story he tells is literally of Odysseus and the Trojan horse, because this was an incident that was already famous by this point. Like, everybody knew how Troy got sacked and who came up with the plan. So it's so hilarious to me to hear the suitor go, we have the advantage. And of course, the one who's coming in smartly going, you're fucking kidding, right? Were we not listening to the same stories about the guy who figured out how to take the hallowed heights of Troy? Like, again, the walls of Troy are like their own character. That's why it was such a big deal. I mean, not only are you sieging a walled city, but these are the walls of Troy. They were their own thing. I mean, Apollo and Poseidon helped to build them. Advantage? Oh god, you cute pumpkin. A fucking audacity. I want to hear even more screams though, because there's so many of them. And like I said, this explodes in the Odyssey in it, like, as I jokingly call it, an orgy of violence. It is, oh, this, I'm having fun. Can you tell I'm having fun? I'm like vibrating.
Where is he? Where is he?
Keep your head down, he's aiming for the torches.
That's a nod to Scylla, isn't it? Keep your head down, he's aiming for the torches. Because we did the whole thing with the light up 6 torches for Scylla. But also, that's just good tactics. If you're doing it so you're taking all the light out and you're essentially trying to bury them deep within the palace, and if you don't know your way around the way Odysseus does. But it says 1 by 1 Odysseus picks off the suitors. Oh, it's so good.
Our weapons,
They're missing! He's using the darkness to hide his approaches.
We're empty-handed, up against an archer. Our only chance is to strike him in the darkness.
We know these odds, the odds can't be tilted.
You don't think I know my own palace? I built it.
And the whole thing about we're up against an archer. Obviously, Odysseus was known to be a very good archer. What's interesting about like the archers of Greek mythology, they're really good archers, but they never use the bow as their primary weapon. The bow is always like used specifically for hunting or again for like contests of cool trick shots. And also as a secondary weapon. I mean, even thinking on a character like, say, Heracles, who very famously has his bow, which we talked about way back when we talked about the character of Philoctetes, who had the bow and the arrows of Heracles, which were famously dipped in the poison of the Hydra or the Hydra, and they needed it upon the death of Achilles, and that is how they ultimately helped to slay Paris. But Heracles' main weapon, if not his bare hands, was his club. The bow and arrow were secondary. Same here with Odysseus. He's obviously an incredible spearman and a swordman and everything else, but he is also an incredible archer. Archery is definitely used a lot more in the myths with stories of hunting than it is as a main weapon of combat, which you could probably then ask, what about the divine twins Apollo and Artemis? Well, think about it. When they use their bows and their arrows, it's predominantly hunting. Artemis is the hunter. Apollo is also mostly associated with music and other things, but they are normally shown to be archers when they are hunting. So, just interesting fun fact. Another fun fact.
Sorry, we do all the fun facts.
This is part of why also, among many other things, the Greeks love to pick on Paris as a coward because his only weapon was the bow and arrow. He was not a proper hero in that he could not fight you with his own two hands. He could not get in there in the melee fight up close. He couldn't really use a sword. He couldn't really use a spear. So he had to hide up like a coward way up high and shoot at men with the bow and the arrow. Part of why the Greeks love to call him a coward, because you don't come and join us on the battlefield and fight the way they believe a proper man, if you will, would. And you could also say it's part of why they also have great respect for Hector, even though he is essentially their enemy. Especially if you read the Iliad, the Greeks highly respect Hector. They have really, like, it's just the fact that they're unfortunately on other sides of a war. Other than that, the Greek kings and other members definitely respect Hector, and he's described very respectfully in the Iliad. As opposed to Paris. Granted, Hector even shits on Paris for the whole of the Iliad. Once again, nobody likes Paris for good reason. But yeah, no, fun fact about the archery and the archers. Oh my god, I'm having so much fun. Okay.
Breathe, man. You're fine. Can't get too excited. Must breathe.
Old King, our leader, is dead. You've destroyed the serpent's head.
Oh, you've destroyed the serpent's head. How interesting.
Could that be a reference to something?
I wonder if that's sort of an oblique, very tangential reference to the Hydra, or the Hydra, because the whole thing with the Hydra is if you cut off one of its heads, more grow in its place. I wonder if that might be part of it, but, you know, I could just be reading way too much into it. Let's see if that is a suitor who speaks. Ah, Eurymachus. So Eurymachus is another kind of major member of the suitors, second really only to Antinous. He is also the one who was sleeping with the maid who narked on Penelope, and he is just like frankly equally as shitty as Antinous. What's also really interesting about Eurymachus is that he is the son of a character named Polybos, and Polybos, his father, is described as being wise as compared to his very foolish and shitty son, but both father and son were suitors of Penelope. Again, talking about this range of ages of the people who were courting Penelope. So, oh, that's kind of nice to see Eurymachus in here. And also, fun fact, Polybus actually isn't even slain by Odysseus. I had mentioned before, he's kind of got like some like swine herds and it's like goat herders and like some servants who he's letting in on this plan alongside Telemachus, and all of them are kind of taking on the suitors, mostly for the ones who straggle and get out. Polybus is actually one of the ones who's killed by this sort of famous, if we will, because he's named herdsman named Eumaeus in the Odyssey. So, fun fact, father and son die here, but oh, that's kind of neat that we include Eurymachus and that he's saying, hey, I don't want to die, there is, interestingly, at least one character who says, like, hey, I had nothing to do with this, like, king, don't hurt me. And I do believe it is the bard, I think, or basically innocent people who are, again, in this hall in which Odysseus has ultimately trapped most, if not all, of the suitors. I do think a couple managed to straggle their way out, but almost all of them have been locked in this one space, and there are some people who are ultimately innocent and who Telemachus, you know, stops his father from killing, of course. But oh, that's a nice nod to a suitor. We like that. And again, this is stuff where, frankly, I mean, even listening to this, you're not gonna know who it is because we haven't named him, but me getting to look at the name means I can go, oh, I know who you are.
Now the rest of us are no longer a threat.
Oh, that's not true. Doesn't matter now.
Forgive us instead, so that no more blood is shed. Let's have open arms instead.
No.
Vindication is mine. Ah!
He's more cunning than I assumed.
Sir,
Sir, what did you assume? This is the man who invented the Trojan fucking horse.
sit your ass down, son.
Also, yes, vindication for let's have open arms instead. No. Have I not been saying since the beginning? No. I feel so vindicated. Amphinomus! Ooh, oh wow, look at all of these great names. So Amphinomus, who's talking here, is actually described in the Odyssey as one of the better behaved of the suitors, and he's not technically from Ithaca. He's the son of a character called King Nisos from a kingdom known as Dulichium. And though it is not part of Ithaca, it is sort of implied to somehow be within Odysseus's kingdom. Now, Dulichium is also mentioned in the Iliad, but it seems potentially maybe to be something else, or it's just one of those things where you've got a discrepancy between the two epics, and look, discrepancies happen across tons of the Greek myth. Again, people do variations on a theme and etc, etc. And the interesting thing about Amphinomus in the Odyssey is that essentially Odysseus, while, you know, basically stripping buck naked and doing all of this shit that I'm gonna fucking kill you all, he basically projects it like a warning, and people have a brief moment to be able to leave, but Athena, who's watching this whole thing happen and just being like, you get him, kid, actually compels Amphinomus to stay, so he's unable to escape. And in the Odyssey, he's actually killed by Telemachus, again, who's participating in this whole thing. So again, super interesting, we have not had Telemachus here at all. So it's kind of making me wonder, when the heck is Telemachus showing up? Is he just gonna roll up and find everyone dead? Just be like, what the fuck did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? And further adding to the great irony of Telemachus being the one to kill Amphinomus, when the suitors are doing this whole plot to kill Telemachus, Amphinomus is one of the only ones who says, hey, maybe this is a bad idea. And he kind of, well, half-heartedly, but does sort of seem to try to persuade the suitors to not go through with their plan to waylay Telemachus on the water. Obviously doesn't work, they still go and try. But it's one of those moments where even a character who's better than all of the shitty ones around him is still behaving badly. Like, being there in the palace, violating Xenia, all this, it's still bad behavior. Like, yeah, he's better than the others, but that doesn't make him great. Interesting, we're doing him this way then. Talking about he's more cunning than I assumed, because Amphinomus, again, is portrayed as the one of the best behaved, yeah, relatively, of the suitors, and seem to have at least a modicum of respect for Telemachus and Odysseus and the positions that they have. Well, even though, yes, he's going with the idea that Odysseus is dead, he probably, again, would have been more fearful if we kept him true to his character in the Odyssey.
While we were busy plotting, he hid our weapons inside this room.
I find it hard to believe that the sharpest of kings left his armory unlocked.
So what? Now that we have armed ourselves, let's make the bastard rot.
Behind!
Okay, so now we're talking about this armory. So it's not that it got left unlocked, it's that Telemachus accidentally left the door partly open. And yeah, it's true, Odysseus would have kept that locked, or he at least would not have left the door open as it is in the Odyssey. So is this a hint that we're getting Telemachus? Has Telemachus finally rolled up? I mean, where has Telemachus been all this time? I guess maybe he's figuring out what's happening? It's kind of tough to bring in Telemachus here when we don't have him in on the plan. Interesting. I suppose that was maybe done so that you can then do the reunion between Odysseus and Telemachus and make it more dramatic and emotional. Yeah, that's probably why, if I had to guess. Okay, so other than Amphinomus, Melanthius. So Melanthius is actually a fellow servant of members in Odysseus's kingdom, if you will. He's, I believe, a goat herd. And unlike, say, like that character I mentioned, Eumaeus, and another one who gets mentioned, Melanthius does not stay loyal to Odysseus, and he's the one who provides the best goats and all of the best livestock to the suitors. And it is Melanthius who actually, like, proceeds when Odysseus arrives in disguise and is being led by the loyal servants to, like, kick and berate Odysseus. In addition, he has a sister named Melanto, and Melanto is the maid that narked out Penelope. So a brother and sister both suck. Go figure. So what happens with Melanthius during the slaughter of the suitors is that Melanthius actually tries to go and help the suitors by getting them more arms and armaments and weapons. So I guess that's probably why we decided to bring him in here, and Jorge decided to at least name him in the libretto, or in the text at least, as a part of this, hey, we found the armory, because that's what he tries to do when the slaughter begins in the hall. Although this is actually pretty early in the whole, like, if we look at the slaughter of the suitors, like the actual slaughter as a timeline, this happens pretty early, and he gets bound by the more loyal servants like Eumaeus and the others. In addition, they also hang him from the rafters, which is, like, honestly not mad about it. But again, they're just like, we are not fucking dealing with you. Just literally hang there for a second. Melanthius actually gets punished. So he's not killed off, you know, outright. They just start maiming him, you know, cut off his nose and his ears. They feed his gonads, if you will, to the dogs, and then in, like, this, again, continuing fury, cut off his hands and feet. And this is all for his disloyalty. This kind of, we could say, maiming, dismemberment, all of this is done as a punishment. And because this is a servant, different power dynamic than talking about something like, say, Polyphemus, because I know that's probably going to come as a question. It is still exceedingly violent. Like, again, even the Greeks would be like, wow, yeah, no, Odysseus big mad. He big mad. It is, though, important to note that it's never specified in the text who does the mutilating of Melanthius. So we don't know if that's Odysseus, if it's Telemachus, if it's maybe the other servants.
You having fun? You squeaking your ball? Again? Yeah? You proud of yourself?
So wow, we are really bringing in everyone here. Now that we're in the armory, are we going to bring in Telemachus? That's really the question. Oh my god, we're only like halfway through the song. Oh my god, so much has happened.
Thank you!
Telemachus! Oh god. Please don't mess up Telemachus again.
Throw down those weapons, and I ensure you'll be spared.
Oh no, you can't.
After seeing what the king will do to us, we wouldn't dare.
Yeah, I'm kind of with the suitors on that one.
I don't want to hurt you, but trust me, I've come prepared.
You're very
Yeah, interesting. I don't want to hurt you, but trust me, I've come prepared.
Yes, he does.
He wants to hurt them. That's very much the goal. This is about take no prisoners. Although actually, now that I'm checking, if we killed Amphinomus, and so he's talking to Melanthius, which again depends upon how Epic is showing Melanthius. Okay, this is the hard part where, like, you know who these characters are and where they stand on the hierarchy. He would actually probably be angrier at Melanthius than he would be at Amphinomus, even though he doesn't know, you know, how Amphinomus technically would have, like, stood up for him during the whole we're plotting to kill you thing. Amphinomus, again, is said to have been one of the better behaved of the suitors, and the fact that Melanthius is one of their servants, essentially, or at least one of their herdsmen, the fact that he betrayed them would cut more than Amphinomus, and Telemachus would be way more down with killing him. He would not be trying to spare him. He'd be like, nah, which part of how it goes in the Odyssey. Interesting.
very presence is doomed the king, young prince. We don't fight fair.
Stop!
Brothers, we got company, and he's made a grave mistake. Left the
Brothers, we've got company. So I guess we are playing him not that he's a servant like he is in the Odyssey, but that he's kind of on equal footing in one of the suitors. Because even though, again, he helps them out a lot and he gets caught in the whole thing with the slaughter of the suitors, he wouldn't be calling them brothers. He wouldn't be referring to them that way because, again, he's a herdsman. He's essentially serving them. Important distinction back in the day. Interesting. And again, because we haven't named any of these characters, I mean, technically we didn't even name Antinous. It's just like for those who know, we know it's Antinous and it's really obvious because he's the most prominent of all the suitors. Someone's not going to know all of these details. Which, again, part of what makes me sad, I think, about the Wisdom Saga is we just, I think, didn't do right by a lot of this situation in the setup so that this could hit even more and we'd get a better sense of who these characters are and how they fit in the hierarchy and in the system. But interesting. Okay, so now we've got Telemachus. We're in the armory. We've got a handful of suitors. And I guess we haven't developed Telemachus all that much because I have a feeling they're about to overpower him, aren't they?
Weapons room unlocked, and now they're ours to take. Brothers, come and arm yourselves. There's a chance for us to win. We can still defeat the king if we all attack the prince.
Where is he? Where is he?
Capture him, he's our greatest chance.
Get off me! Get off me!
Fight till the
that
prince
makes me
can
sad.
barely stand.
Hold him down! Hold him down!
Make the king obey our commands.
Hold him down! Hold him down!
Cause if he won't, I'll break the kid's hands.
That's ironic.
Got him.
Peace out, bitch. Eat shit.
Mercy. Mercy.
It's gonna sound really dumb. Did they mention mercy right before that lyric? Oh, Melanthius is trying to say mercy. Oh my god. All I heard was just like groaning. I didn't realize he was trying to say mercy. Yeah, kind of sad. I kind of did Telemachus a little dirty here too, and that makes me sad. Because Telemachus really holds his own in the slaughter of the suitors. He's actively participating, killing people, and it's pretty satisfying. Because again, because the whole point is that we've been building to getting to see Telemachus physically confront the suitors. It's the whole thing of, I wish in Wisdom Saga we had not had explosions of physical violence already so we could then build up to this point, because part of that pacing in the Odysseys, we don't see them physically confront each other, and then we get this explosion of violence in the slaughter of the suitors, and we get to see Telemachus really show his mettle. So that makes me kind of sad, and it does mean, I guess overall I'm gonna have to not love the treatment of Telemachus in this whole show, but obviously always down for Odysseus having a moment to just be the bloodthirsty, brutal king that he is. And now at least I know why he said mercy. I was about to be like, why the fuck is he talking about mercy? Did we even say that? Silly me, I didn't hear what the guy was saying. Whoops.
My mercy is long since drowned. It died to bring me home. And as long as you're around, my family's fate is left unknown.
My mercy died to bring me home. Yeah, he hasn't been merciful basically this whole show. Which I now understand the idea is that the whole thesis statement, if you will, of the musical is really that idea that ruthlessness is mercy upon ourselves. I just think it really is important to note that what he did to the Cyclops isn't mercy, so ultimately Odysseus has not been merciful for this whole show. I mean, I do think any mercy he might have had, I would say it died to bring me home. I wouldn't even say it drowned. You could say that maybe it died at Troy. If you want to claim that he had some kind of mercy, just say it died at Troy. It died to win a war. It died to bring me home. And I think it better emphasizes this idea that Odysseus hasn't necessarily changed throughout the show, but more that he thinks he's changed. He thought he went through a change, but this is, the final form, if you will, is the acknowledgement that, oh, I have always been this way. Especially in this moment where he's going through and slaughtering a whole bunch of people, right? He's in that same sort of like combat mode, if you will, that he would have been at Troy. If that makes sense, I hope that makes sense.
You plotted to kill my son. You planned to rape my
Yeah.
wife. All of you are going to die.
Oh, everybody.
You filled my heart with hate. All of you who have done me wrong. This will be your fate!
This is the sound I wanted. Oh, that last bit is so fucking good. That's what I've been wanting to hear. I want to hear kind of, as I was calling it, an orgy of violence. Well, so that was the slaughter of the suitors. So many good things going on there. Again, some things that I'm not super sold on, and it's mainly Telemachus. I think we've kind of done that character a little dirty overall in the show. And I think the way to fix that is better set up in the Wisdom Saga. I think if we tweak the Wisdom Saga a bit, and maybe adjust Telemachus a little bit in here, you get so much more out of it. But wow, so much good shit going on in here. You know, we've now killed all the suitors. And again, that last handful of seconds with the ODYSSEUS and just the screaming in the back. That is what I wanted to hear for the whole song. I'd have taken a whole 5.5 minutes of that and just sat here like this, like,
Yes, yes.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, an orgy of violence, an explosion of violence. Totally would have loved a drama thundercrack there, but that might have made the audience think Zeus is there. Still, look, I'm always up for the high drama. I love the high drama, so wow. Wow. So I guess the one big question is, when exactly did Telemachus show up? Like, when exactly did he get there? Because that's left very vague, and especially if we kept him so notably absent for so much of this. It does make me wonder, when the heck did Telemachus get home? What exactly did he think was going on? Like, how did this work? Confuzzlement? Which is just like, it's such a minor thing. It's just one, I can't help it. The ADHD, it just thinks about it. It goes, wait, when did he show up? Can you imagine what he thought coming home? He was like, what the fuck is going on? What's going on? But oh wow, so we've now murdered all the suitors. They are finally gone. It's so nice. So we've now only got 2 songs left. I would assume one of them is Odysseus and Telemachus actually meeting for the first time. I almost said reuniting, but frankly, that doesn't feel like the right word because they never really knew each other. That's gotta be wild. And then you'll have to have Odysseus and Penelope, the thing we've been waiting for. And I totally think that's probably the place the musical will end. And I think that's the right spot for it to end. Again, if you're gonna cut everything out of book 24, which I would frankly advocate doing, because again, it's super important to the Greeks and really important cultural stuff. But I think at this point, have the rather spectacular reunion of Odysseus and Penelope and just close it out there. And I think that's the perfect spot to end it. So, ooh, this will be very interesting. But oh, I have finally gotten the slaughter of the suitors. So many things to like. A couple things I'm kind of like, I'm not sure about. But overall, wonderful. Mwah, Jorge. There's such good work in here. When the musical hits, it really does hit so high, so well, so hard that it's like, again, as I was saying, I was basically vibrating, like bouncing up and down. Oh, that was so much fun. Does it feel a little wrong to say that was such fun? Don't care, that was such fun.